I, 32-year-old male, have been with my wife, 32-year-old female, for 12 years, married for nearly 6. She is the first and only girl I have ever been with. Back in early December of last year, she sprung it on me that she no longer wants to be with me and just wants to live by herself. She described the feeling as just complete apathy. She mentioned she had been feeling this way for a long time and hoped the feeling would go away, but since it hadn't, she finally let me know. Some background info: we initially dated long distance, and she moved halfway across the country to be with me pretty early on in our relationship after college. Neither of us is particularly social, and we have a pretty small group of friends and family, most of whom she left back home on her end. We've both also struggled some with varying levels of depression. Back in 2020, she ended up quitting her job as she had a pretty toxic work environment. I was fine with this and even encouraged her to do so, as I make a decent living and can afford to pay for both of us. I told her at the time, though, that if she was going to be staying at home, I expected her to help more with miscellaneous things around the house, such as cooking, cleaning, etc. I felt like she didn't really keep her end of the bargain on this, but I did my best not to say anything, as I knew she wasn't in a great state of mind at the time and pretty depressed. In retrospect, I probably should have, as I think this caused me to bottle up some resentment. Fast forward again to 2022, and she got into some fights with her mom and brother, basically her only family she was in contact with, and ended up going no contact with both due to them never really respecting her opinions and life choices, which I again supported her on. At that point, I was pretty much the only person she had left. It was soon after this that we had several fights because she didn't feel I was giving her the time she needed. I've always been someone who enjoys some time to myself occasionally, whereas she wanted to be with me nearly all the time. This is pretty much the main argument we'd had at various points in our relationship. I was working from home at this point, and she would sit near me on the couch watching TV or doing other things while I worked on the computer. At the end of the day, I would sometimes want time to myself to relax, play video games, etc., whereas she would want to spend time together or talk. I would get annoyed/jealous from this, as I saw all this free time she had, and I didn't feel like I got any to myself. We had several fairly heated arguments on this, as in my mind, she was asking for too much, and I didn't ever get time to do the things I enjoy. But in her mind, I never wanted to hang out with her. In reality, it was probably somewhere in between, but it was at this point where the disconnect happened, according to her. Looking back, I was all she had, and I should have done a better job of being there for her, but obviously, I can't change that now. This was a pretty low point emotionally and physically for both of us. Neither of us was taking care of ourselves, but then, around the middle of 2023, we started working out together. She got a new job that she enjoys, and we were spending a lot of time together and, in my opinion, really communicating well and bonding. I thought this was the best our relationship had been in a long time, which is why it threw me off so much when she sprung the news of how she was feeling to me later that year in December. Since this point, we've gone to sleeping in different bedrooms and doing most things separately now. She still wants to be friends, but has completely cut off the physical aspect of the relationship, anywhere from hand-holding to intimacy. She hasn't really made any effort to actually move out of the house, even though when she initially brought this up, she mentioned wanting to move back closer to her friend's home. It's been months now, and I've gone through the whole gamut of emotions. Initially, I tried everything I could to win her back, but to no avail. I suggested counseling, antidepressant meds, etc., but she isn't interested in any of that. Since then, I've gone through trying to stay friendly to completely avoiding and ignoring her so she can see what it's like really being alone. I don't want to be vindictive because I am still in love with her, but I just don't know what to do. I get she felt abandoned, and I think this is her coping and not wanting to have to depend on anyone again, because it hurt her so much in the past. It's just so weird seeing her like this because the person I know was the most loving, affectionate person I'd ever known, and now seeing her devoid of that, it's heartbreaking. I've brought up moving several times to her now, but the discussion never really ends with anything substantive. I think her tone has changed some from our initial discussions, and it seems she's comfortable with the current arrangement and also not sure where to go or how to start if she even were to move. There's also the financial aspect where she probably honestly can't afford to live by herself, but it's not fair to me at the same time. If she truly wants to be alone, then that's ultimately her choice. But it isn't my choice. I want to be with someone who cares about me and that I can reciprocate with. And while she's my first, second, and third choice, at the end of the day, if she doesn't want to be with me, then I need to be able to move on and find someone else who can. I can't do that when she's living in the same house and I see her every day, and I can't just turn my feelings off. The past few days, I've distanced myself as much as possible. We would normally still hang out most days for a little bit, but I've been doing my own thing and only communicating where necessary, did you feed the dogs, etc. I told her it's just easier for me to shut off my feelings around her at this point, because when I'm around her, I'm always left wanting something more. I'm just miserable and am finally coming to accept the situation given how long she's felt this way, but also don't want to just kick her out. What do? Edit. Lots of posts about her cheating. Obviously, I can't say for certain, but I'd bet just about anything this isn't the case. She only goes into her current job 2 days a week, and outside of that, she really doesn't leave the house unless she's with me. I'd contemplated the idea before posting any of this, and it just doesn't add up. I really think she has just closed herself off. Edit 2. I think I painted her in a bad light that she doesn't deserve. While she has freeloaded to a degree recently, she doesn't go out spending money outside of necessities. Up until recent events, it was probably also much more in her favor of putting effort into the relationship. She made sure every birthday/anniversary/sick day, whatever it may be, was extremely special for me. She genuinely is the most caring person I'll probably ever know, and neither of us has any ill feelings towards one another. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Prepare for a divorce and put together an exit strategy. The current situation works for her because she gets most of the benefits of a relationship without the obligations. For those things she won't get from you, she'll look to get from someone else. Her unwillingness to work on any of these issues leads me to believe she may already be doing that. When you tell her you're ready to actually separate and she needs to find a new place by a certain day, she'll make promises to work on things. But if you pay attention, you'll notice it's not an honest effort. She's going to try to figure out the bare minimum she needs to do to keep you around. Comment 2. Contact a divorce attorney and file. Depending on where you live, you could be on the hook for at least temporary alimony because of how long she's been out of the workforce. And she could be deliberately dragging her feet to get it for longer, or at all if you haven't reached the trigger point yet, but will soon. Strike that part. I missed the sentence about her having a new job. Even if that's not the case, delaying the inevitable isn't good for either of you. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been about a month since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening. First off, thank you for all the support and advice you gave me. It really helped me through a tough time. Unfortunately, things have taken a turn for the worse. A few weeks ago, I found out that my wife had been hiding something from me. It turns out that during her period of unemployment, she had been spending a lot of time online talking to an old friend from back home. At first, it seemed innocent enough, just catching up with someone she hadn't seen in a while. But as time went on, their conversations became more frequent and more intimate. I discovered this when I accidentally saw a message pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. I know I shouldn't have snooped, but curiosity got the best of me. What I found was a long thread of messages, going back months, filled with flirtatious banter and even some explicit content. I was devastated. When I confronted her about it, she broke down in tears. She said that she had been feeling lonely and disconnected from me for a long time, and this online relationship had given her the attention and validation she craved. She swore that it had never turned physical, but the emotional betrayal was just as painful. We had a long, difficult conversation that night. She apologized profusely and said she wanted to work things out, but I just couldn't get past the hurt and anger I was feeling. I told her I needed some time to think things over. In the following days, I tried to go about my routine as normal, but everything felt different. The house that had once been our home now felt like a prison, filled with painful memories and unanswered questions. I found myself wondering how long this had been going on and if there were other secrets she was keeping from me. As I struggled to process my emotions, I started to reflect on our relationship as a whole. I realized that there had been warning signs all along that I had chosen to ignore The way she would sometimes pull away from me emotionally, the long hours she spent online, the fights we had about spending time together, it all started to add up. I also began to see how my own actions had contributed to the problem. I had been so focused on my own needs and desires that I had neglected hers. I had taken her for granted, assuming that she would always be there no matter what. I had failed to see how much she was hurting and how much she needed me to be there for her. After a lot of soul-searching, I came to the painful realization that our relationship was beyond repair. The trust had been broken, and I didn't see a way to get it back. As much as it hurt, I knew that the best thing for both of us was to go our separate ways. When I told her my decision, she was devastated. She begged me to reconsider, promising that she would do whatever it took to make things right. But I had made up my mind. I told her that I would always care for her, but I couldn't be with someone who had betrayed me like that. The past few weeks have been a blur of packing, paperwork, and painful goodbyes. We decided to sell the house and split the proceeds, which will give us both a fresh start. She's moving back home to be closer to her family and friends while I'm staying in the city for now. It's been a difficult and emotional time, but I know that I made the right decision for myself. I'm still processing everything that happened, and I know that it will take time to heal. But I'm hopeful for the future, and I'm looking forward to starting this new chapter of my life. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It means more to me than you know. My neighbors used their kids' binoculars to spy on me, so I turned the tables and exposed their dirty secrets to the entire neighborhood. My wife, 26-year-old female, and I, 42-year-old male, bought a house a few months ago, an upgrade from our previous flat. Nice place, quiet little neighborhood, everything looked good. I'm not a flasher or a nudist, but at the old place I was quite happy to walk around unclothed, either when just out of bed or out of the shower, etc. I don't walk around like that all day or for any extended period of time, but I don't hurry when I'm at home alone and have nowhere to be. I've continued this practice in the new house, never really thought about it. I had a visit from a couple across the estate about 2 months ago who explained that their daughter, 11-year-old female, had seen me from her bedroom window, and they asked me if I could stop doing it, or make sure the blinds were firmly closed at least. I was horrified. The positioning of our house on the estate, the view from the windows, I hadn't realized I could be seen. Parents explained that the only reason their daughter could see at all was because they'd bought her a telescope binocular set for Christmas, and it's only by using these that she's been able to see. I verified this after. With the naked eye, I suppose it would just about be possible to see someone in a window from that distance, but not in any detail for sure. I told them I would be a little more concerned about her spying into her neighbors' houses using these toys. They said they would deal with this, but that they still would prefer I wasn't naked and exposing myself in case she did happen to be looking again. Okay, seemed fair enough. I agreed to be more careful. Since then, I have been a bit more careful, but sometimes I still forget. The parents came back to me yesterday, very angry. The wife said I was still flaunting myself and that I had been seen naked 17 times since we last spoke. I was slightly shocked and responded that I didn't think it had been that often. I also questioned why they hadn't told the daughter to stop looking and/or taken control of her binoculars. I was then told that they had taken the binoculars away from her, but they had been using them to keep tabs on me. Hence, they were aware of occasions I had been naked in my house. They showed me a diary where they'd logged each date time they'd seen me. I lost it and asked what they thought they were doing spying on me in my own home. They said they were just making sure their daughter was safe and that they would give me one last chance to stop altogether, or they would be going to the police. I told them to do that if they wanted, and said I'd make a counter-accusation of spying/stalking/harassment. Since then, I've been walking around naked much more often. My wife agrees that they were the AHs in the first place, but now she's saying I'm being the AH by antagonizing them, and that it's also not right when this might be affecting the daughter. I just don't see that I should cover up in my own home anyway. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, report it to the police for spying. I doubt anything will happen, but if it escalates, you have evidence of continued harassment. I would also place a trespassing order against them so they can't come to your property. Comment 2, I would tell them you are going to call the police because they are using binoculars to invade your privacy in your home. I would continue to do as you please in your own home. Your neighbors are perverts. Now for the update, hey everyone, it's been a chaotic 2 weeks since my last post. Thanks for all the support and advice. I'll jump right into what's been going on. So, a few days after my last post, I was in the kitchen making breakfast, wearing just my boxers. Suddenly, there's a loud knock at the door. I open it, and there's a police officer standing there. He says he's received a complaint about indecent exposure and needs to talk to me. I'm shocked, but I invite him in and explain the whole situation. The officer seems to understand my side, but says he still has to give me a warning. He suggests I be more mindful about walking around undressed, even in my own home. I'm annoyed, but I agree just to get him off my back. Later that day, I see the couple outside and I confront them about calling the cops. They deny it at first, but eventually the husband admits it. He says they felt they had no choice. I tell them they're being ridiculous and that I'm not doing anything wrong. The wife starts yelling at me, saying I'm a deviant and that they won't stand for it. I just walk away, fuming. Over the next week, I make a point to walk around naked even more, just to spite them. My wife tells me to stop being so childish, but I'm too pissed off to listen. Then, a few days ago, I'm in the living room watching TV in the buff when the doorbell rings. It's the couple again, but this time they have their daughter with them. The mom is holding her hand tightly and the dad looks furious. He starts screaming at me, saying I've traumatized their daughter and that they're going to sue me. The little girl is crying and saying she's sorry for spying on me. I feel awful. I try to apologize and explain that I never meant for her to see anything, but they're not having it. After they leave, my wife and I get into a huge fight. She says I've taken things too far and that I need to stop this crusade before it ruins our lives. Deep down, I know she's right, but I'm too stubborn to admit it. The next morning, I find a note on my windshield. It's from the couple saying they've installed cameras pointed at our house and that if they catch me naked one more time, they're taking the footage straight to the police and the press. They say they'll destroy me. I'm at a loss for what to do. On one hand, I feel like I should be able to be naked in the privacy of my own home. It's the principle of the thing, you know? But on the other hand, I don't want to be labeled as some kind of intimacy offender. And I definitely don't want my wife to leave me, which she's threatened to do if I don't put an end to this. I've been racking my brain trying to figure a way out of this mess. That's when I remembered something from my past that I think could help. Back in college, I had a buddy named Jake. He was a bit of a rebel, always getting into trouble. One night, he got drunk and streaked through the quad. He got caught by campus security and was facing expulsion. But then he found out that one of the security guards had a habit of harassing female students. Jake managed to get proof and used it as leverage to get himself off the hook. It was a dirty move, but it worked. And it got me thinking, what if the couple across the street has some skeletons in their closet? What if I could find something to use against them, to get them to back off? I know it's a long shot, but I'm desperate. I've started doing some digging, talking to other neighbors to see if they know anything. I hate stooping to their level, but I feel like I don't have a choice. Anyway, that's where things stand now. I'm at a crossroads, and I'm not sure which path to take. Do I keep fighting for my right to be naked in my own home? Do I give in to the couple's demands, or do I try to play dirty and beat them at their own game? I guess I've got some soul-searching to do. Thanks for listening, everyone. It helps to get this off my chest. I'll keep you posted on what happens next. My girlfriend belittles my PTSD and jewelry business, saying I don't do enough. So I show her the door and teach her a lesson about respect. My girlfriend, 38 years old, and I, 36 years old, have been together for almost 10 years. No kids, just 4 pets. And this is an ongoing problem that always seems to arise, so I just want some outside opinions. I am a disabled veteran with PTSD, along with a few other medical issues related to some intense combat experiences. My unit received a personal commendation from the President for being the most deployed unit with the most high-value targets and weapon caches captured at the time, and we suffered significant casualties. I receive a check from the VA and undergo a good deal of therapy. Additionally, I won a house from a veterans organization. Between the VA benefits and not having to pay a mortgage or rent, I consider myself very lucky. I wanted to take this opportunity to become self-employed doing something I love, jewelry smithing. I will admit that when I first acquired the house and Infection 19 hit, both of us essentially went into a period of idleness for quite some time, where neither of us had a job and we relied on my modest VA benefits. Since then, my girlfriend got the job she used to joke about getting when we first moved here, working at a zoo. Her current job is significantly less stressful and more personally rewarding than her previous jobs. Meanwhile, I have been devoting my time to building out my jewelry shop, which has been a long and fairly stressful process due to budget constraints and limited space. We have discussed the need for my time to be separate from our time, and we agreed that joint projects would mostly be done together so that I can focus on my own tasks during her work hours. However, there have been many expectations for joint or her projects to be completed while she is at work, simply because I have the time. She tends to add to that never-ending list of tasks. We have attempted to compromise by dedicating one day every weekend to the projects she wants to do, and if she is working when she is home, I make sure to also be productive. I do understand that I have more available time than she does, so I try to pick up the slack and make her life easier. I take care of daily chores such as dishes, pet care, garbage disposal, car maintenance, lawn work, general house upkeep, and at least half of the general cleaning. Additionally, I have made it a point to insist that she takes time for herself when she gets home from work while I prepare dinner. She is responsible for groceries and laundry, as she has specific preferences for how the laundry is done, and most of it pertains to her own clothes. Currently, we split the bills approximately 50-50 since we both earn about the same, and neither of us pays rent or mortgage because of the house. One of my biggest challenges related to my PTSD is dealing with nights and mornings, aside from struggling with public situations. Almost every night, I have horrible dreams that take a toll on my mental well-being. As a result, I find it difficult to gather my thoughts in the mornings and often feel like an irritable zombie. Therefore, I usually take around an hour to decompress before I start becoming productive. Additionally, there is the mental toll of trying to set up my jewelry shop, which seems like a never-ending process that drains me. So, with that being said, here is the problem I need help with. My girlfriend has made similar comments multiple times, and I live with a significant amount of guilt and stress because of this. However, last night she became slightly intoxicated from wine and berated me about it for a considerable amount of time. She says things like, any other woman would expect more. If she's working, I should be actively working or doing work around the house. And any other man wouldn't take time for himself every morning. He would be spending it on the family. When I respond by saying, other men don't deal with night terrors every day as a result of serving our country, which is why I receive a check. So it's kind of my job to deal with my stress. Besides, it's the reason you were able to be unemployed and carefree while finding your dream job. She becomes angry and repeats that I am lucky and should be grateful, and that other men would spend more of that time on their family. Sometimes she pushes it to the point where I give up and ask her to stop getting in my face, telling me things like, some of the guys you served with had it way worse and they probably do more for their family, which hits me hard due to my survivor's guilt. I made her dinner at 6:30 while we talked, and she drank. As she became more intoxicated, our conversation gradually escalated into a fight. Around 9:30, I had had enough and asked her to please stop and come eat dinner, so I took my food upstairs. When she followed me and continued berating me, I recorded her. She spent another 45 minutes berating me, and I asked her to please stop over 15 times. Eventually, she went outside for 15 minutes, then returned without saying anything, while humming occasionally, except for occasional statements like, I just can't believe you don't know how lucky you are and how much other men do for their families, or other women would expect more. Afterward, she went to bed without eating the dinner I had prepared for her. Am I the jerk for taking time for myself in the morning? I do try to make it somewhat productive by watching jewelry or casting tutorials, but that is not always the case. Do other men do more for their family? I'm definitely struggling with self-worth and guilt, so gaining some perspective would be helpful. Sorry, this ended up being pretty long. Edit. I guess I should have anticipated this. Please refrain from simply commenting break up and try to provide me with something substantial to work with. I would appreciate it if this conversation could be productive. Despite this issue, I love her very much, and there is a lot more to our relationship than just this problem. We are well suited for each other in every other way. I suppose I am seeking perspective on whether other men do more, or if other women expect more. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If you are set on staying with her, it sounds like you both need counseling. She needs to fully understand what you experience every night and why you need time every day to get past that. I have multiple family members that served, and my father has had PTSD long before it was called that, and he never talks about what he experienced. He does have these fits where it seems like he's having an argument with someone only he sees, and has these jerking movements and stops almost as suddenly as they start. I've seen this my whole life, and he only started therapy after my mom died in 2009. Your girlfriend needs to work through her own issues and stop trying to put things on you that you don't need. Maybe if she would keep in mind that she wouldn't be living in a house with no rent mortgage, and as you pointed out, she would not have had the luxury of going without a job while she found her dream job if not for all you went through. You are definitely not the idiot, and thank you for your service. Comment 2. I just can't believe you don't know how lucky you are. Lucky how, exactly? What do you do for me exactly? And how much other men do for their families? You're looking for wife benefits when you're a girlfriend. That's not going to happen. Other women would expect more. And other women would accept things as they are. I don't see your point. Long story short, she's not family. She's not even your fiancé. She's your girlfriend, living in your house. Seriously. What family is she referring to? The dogs? You don't have kids. When she says family, she means her. She's being ridiculously selfish. You're doing plenty. She's a jerk, not the idiot. Now, for the update. Hey there, thanks for reading. It's been a rough couple of weeks since my last post, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear me out. So, after that night when my girlfriend berated me for hours, things got pretty tense between us. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened, but I couldn't just let it go. I tried to bring it up calmly, but she shut me down, saying she was just drunk and didn't mean any of it. But the thing is, she's said similar stuff before when she was sober, so I knew there was more to it. I decided to give her some space and focus on my jewelry shop. I had a big order come in from a local boutique, and I threw myself into the work. It felt good to be productive and create something beautiful. But even as I worked, I couldn't shake the guilt and self-doubt that my girlfriend's words had stirred up. A few days later, I had a therapy session with my VA counselor. I opened up about what had happened and how it made me feel. My therapist reminded me that my PTSD is a real and valid condition, and that taking time for myself in the morning is a necessary part of managing my symptoms. She also pointed out that my girlfriend's expectations of what other men do for their families were unrealistic and unfair. Armed with that validation, I decided to have a serious talk with my girlfriend. I waited until she got home from work one evening and asked her to sit down with me. I told her how much her words had hurt me and that I needed her to understand and respect my mental health needs. I also reminded her of all the things I do around the house and for our relationship, and how I've supported her in pursuing her dream job. To my surprise, she actually listened. She apologized for what she'd said and admitted that she'd been feeling stressed and overwhelmed lately. We had a long, honest conversation about our expectations and needs in the relationship. We agreed to work on communicating better and being more understanding of each other's struggles. Things have been better since then, but it's still a work in progress. My girlfriend has been making more of an effort to appreciate what I do and give me the space I need in the mornings. And I've been trying to be more proactive about helping out around the house and planning quality time together. But just when I thought we were finding our groove, something unexpected happened. Remember how I mentioned that my unit suffered significant casualties during our deployments? Well, last week I got a call from the wife of one of my fallen comrades. She was going through some old boxes and found a letter that her husband had written to me before he died, but never sent. She mailed it to me, and when I read it, it hit me like a ton of bricks. In the letter, my friend talked about how much he admired my strength and resilience, and how he knew I would go on to do great things after the war. He also confessed that he'd always looked up to me as a leader and a friend, and that he was grateful for the times we'd had together. Reading his words, I was overwhelmed with emotion, grief for his loss, but also a sense of purpose and motivation. I realize that I owe it to my fallen brothers to live my life to the fullest and pursue my passions. I can't let my PTSD or anyone else's expectations hold me back. So I've been pouring even more energy into my jewelry business, and I'm excited to see where it takes me. Of course, there are still challenges ahead. My girlfriend and I have a long way to go in terms of building a healthy, supportive relationship. And I know that my PTSD will always be a part of my life, something I have to manage and work through every day. But I'm feeling more hopeful and determined than ever before. Thanks again for listening and for all your support. It means the world to me to have a community of people who understand what I'm going through and have my back. I'll keep you posted on how things go from here. Take care. Your name. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!